everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to be predicting and deep diving into the NFC North. We'll be talking about each team's offseason, their starting lineups. We'll be predicting each team's record, the winner of the division award winners. It's going to be super fun. The NFC North is such a fun division, such a young division with a bunch of upside. So I'm really excited to get into this one. How are you, Josh?
Doing great. Like you said, young, exciting, polarizing talent. Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy. It's a young and upcoming division. We just talked about, an established AFC North, and now we just go, to just a young and upcoming division, which is going to be super fun to talk about. But I'm doing good, Dan. I see you rocking the Caleb Williams jersey right there. You're probably one of the few people that has one. Um, I'm rocking a little bear on my hat for the Bears today. The Bears.
I thought that was a Charger bolt for a second.
No, it's a North Face hat, but it has a bear logo on it. So, I thought I'd put it on in honor for today. I don't have any other bear stuff.
Absolutely love it. And any NFC North fans, don't get too mad at us. I've got a Jordan Love shirt right here because this is really just such a fun division. We got so many fun quarterbacks to talk about. And with that, let's just go right into the Chicago Bears, who finished tied with the Vikings for last in the division, but they did finish with a higher draft pick. So we will start with the exciting, young, polarizing Bears who finished 7-10 last year. They get Caleb Williams with that Panthers pick, that beautiful trade that they had that landed them with this generational quarterback. They move off of Justin Fields and Getsy, two tragic, tragic pieces of that offense last year for Caleb Williams and a bunch of fun weapons that we're going to talk about here. Let's just move on to their offseason because their offseason was so fun. One of the more electric, active off seasons of really the NFL. It was just awesome. They definitely got better, maybe more than anyone, considering the quarterback situation. So, but we'll start it off with that draft because they had such a fun draft, a foundational draft for their franchise. You get Caleb Williams at pick one, and we'll talk a lot about him in the roster portion. We've talked about him all offseason, how much we love him, how much we think he's a generational quarterback. He should have easily been the first overall pick. That should have never been a discussion. So we were spot on with that. But we also got to talk about Rome Odunze, who they get in the top 10 as well. We'd be remiss not to talk about this draft haul because Caleb and Odunze could be a generational duo down the line. I don't know how impactful it will be in year one, but it's just going to be so fun to monitor. Odunze is our wide receiver three. He's got to be the most exciting wide receiver three in the NFL. So that is very, very fun. The first signing of free agency was to help out Caleb. They bring in DeAndre Swift, who's been on his third team now, and a short career. And I don't know why exactly they had to make that the first signing of free agency. I don't think DeAndre Swift is the best running back. He definitely doesn't really have vision, but he'll be fun in the receiving game for Caleb. They re-signed the big man, Jalen Johnson, the star corner from last year, maybe the best corner in the NFL last year. So I absolutely love that move. And then, like Coleman Shelton to compete for the center spot. I think that's awesome. I think their offensive line is going to be solid. And then they do lose, some they don't really have much D-line depth. So I do want to talk about, you see on the bottom left, Yannick Ngakoue is a free agent. I think it would be smart to bring him back. So all in all, really, really solid offseason. Anything you want to say about the additions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously bringing in Keenan Allen too, trading your fourth round pick for him is just, a quite essential, brilliant move by general manager Ryan Poles. I mean, you bring in somebody with, you know, familiarity to a young quarterback, a guy who's just a safety net blanket, who is just, one of the better route running receivers, one of the more friendly, receivers to a quarterback at just, creating space and getting open. So obviously that was huge. This offseason, your wide receiver core is DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze for your rookie quarterback. You built out your line almost perfectly. You have Cole Kmet. You just add, to that fire and get Gerald Everett. And then obviously you move off of veteran Eddie Jackson, and you replace him with Kevin Byard. So everything they lost, I felt like they just kind of upgraded. And so it was just quite beautiful and quite an incredible showing from Ryan Poles this offseason.
Yeah, and they didn't put Keenan on this graphic because they don't put the trades, and I kind of totally forgot about that. Just a beautiful addition for a rookie quarterback to have. complete security blanket. He's always going to be at the right place at the right time. So absolutely love that addition as well. With that, let's just go on to the lineup. Let's talk about this really exciting offense. And I guess we can just start it off with the weapons. This has to be the best situation a number one pick has ever gone into in the history of the NFL. It's pretty incredible. You see DJ Moore, he finishes a top 10 receiver in PFF. I think he is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He really proved that he is that alpha superstar receiver. The Panthers really messed up adding him into that trade. That whole trade was just a mess for the Panthers. You bring in Keenan to kind of be that slot where he really thrives. He was the 11th ranked receiver in PFF grades. Like, that's just ridiculous. You bring in Romo Dunze, who's going to be a stud on the outside. It's a 70-30 ball when you throw it up to him. Literally, statistically, that's how it was in college. So that receiving core is just silly. It has to be the most fun receiving core in the NFL. Just three complementary pieces. It's really awesome. A lot of people compared Odunze to Keenan Allen, and then you bring in Caleb Williams. We absolutely loved him. I bought this jersey the day of the draft because he's just so fun. He's already my favorite quarterback in the NFL, and there's a lot of hate that he gets. He gets a lot of hate for reasons not really football related, and I'm so excited for him to just completely ball out, make the playoffs year one, shut everyone up, and I'm pretty confident that he just hits the ground running and really, really has a high floor with these awesome receivers around him. And DeAndre Swift should be fun in the receiving game. They got Roshan Johnson as well with Khalil Herbert, so a pretty stacked running back room. The offensive line is definitely right in the middle of the NFL, so you're not going to be worried about that at all. So I'm really excited for this offense, man.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be electric, and from a fantasy aspect, it's going to be nuts, man. It's going to be a little hard to navigate. Who's going to be the best, just because you are so stacked. But this offense is going to put up a lot of points, man, and they're gonna frustrate a lot of teams because I mean it is just it's one of the better, it's one of the more perfect offenses, and for a number one overall pick. I hate to kind of say it, but there's going to be no excuses because you're coming into a damn near just beautiful, perfect situation with not a weak spot on your offense.
Absolutely. And then I really like the offensive line. Like I mentioned, you got Cole Kmet. You bring in Gerald Everett from the Chargers with Keenan as well to be a really good second tight end option. And you got your sixth man that you drafted this year in Kieran Amagaji to be that swing backup tackle. I'm really high on him. I loved that pick as well. So really just insane draft from the Bears. It's going to be a foundational draft for the Bears, in my opinion. And with that, let's go on to the defense, because another draft piece that I want to talk about real quick is Austin Booker, who they trade up and get. And this edge room is rough. Let's just start it with the defensive line, because you've got Montez Sweat, who's an absolute menace. He was awesome last year when he came over. They were probably a top 5 defense the rest of the year. He really helped them out. But opposite of him, it's DeMarcus Walker starting at edge, and he's kind of like a rotational interior guy. So that'll be very interesting. Like I said earlier, I would really try to bring back Ngakoue. I know he was terrible last year, but honestly, just any veteran edge, I would feel a little bit better about this. You're really counting on Gervin Dexter, who had a terrible PFF grade last year, to really break out this year. Like, he's got to play good, and he did play good at the end of the season, but he's got to really, really break out. So the front four is a little bit scary. They're not too much depth as well, but like I said, I think Austin Booker out of Kansas can be the guy that has the upside to be that starter opposite of Sweat. And I think Sweat just has a game breaking season. So really excited about that. We'll go to the linebackers. I think it's a really, really solid trio of linebackers. You got Terrell Edmonds, the big money guy. Really bad season last year. I'll just say it. TJ Edwards is a far better linebacker than Terrell Edmonds, and no one really talks about that because of the names, but TJ Edwards is a top 10 linebacker in the NFL, a complete, well rounded stud. So you've got him leading that room. Edmonds, you kind of will just take what you get from him at this point, and hopefully he kind of lives up to that pay grade. And then you got Jack Sanborn, who's kind of like a quasi TJ Edwards, both out of Wisconsin, both undrafted. And I think he can develop into that player. So love, love, love the front seven, and that secondary is just so young and fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. And I just, a lot of this I leave up to how Matt Eberflus coaches this defense. And I feel like a lot relies on his shoulders, to coach this team up, and, to have these guys playing, better than, some of them did last year. I mean, Jervon Dexter, he's an exciting prospect, but I mean, he was graded 101st out of 130 eligible defensive interior guys. So, there's definitely some spots where we can get better. But I do trust Matt Eberflus. I do trust his system. And I think the Bears, they kind of have it in them, to play above, their talent level. And it really helps when you have, number one corner over there, Jalen Johnson, number one out of 127 corners, just an absolute lockdown guy. It frees up your defense to do a lot of fun things. And so, he cannot be understated how valuable he is. He's incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And you've got Tariq Stevenson, who I absolutely loved. I thought he could have snuck into the first round, and they got him as a steal. They got Jalen Johnson as a second round steal as well. Kyler Gordon in the slot, who struggled last year, but I think he has a lot of upside in the slot. And I just think that's a really fun young trio that you have that can mold with each other and grow together and really hit that upside with Jalen Johnson being that absolute stud on the outside that you can really count on. So I absolutely love the defense. I think if you just bring in a veteran edge opposite of Sweat, you're really cooking. I think Eberflus will coach them up to be a borderline top 5, top 10 defense. I really, really do. I think they'll continue where they left off on, the end of the season last year. But anything else you want to say before we get on to the Vikings? I like the safety duo, Brisker and Byard's pretty fun.
Are we gonna hold our record predictions this time for the end, or are we spilling them beforehand?
Let's just spill it. What do you think the Bears will finish as?
Okay, I have them at a 9-8 record, finishing third in the division, but that is no slouch. They're in an absolute stacked division. It's gonna be very, very hard. But 9 wins for a rookie quarterback is no slouch. That could be a borderline, in my opinion, wild card team. I feel like they're gonna be that seventh, eighth seed, competing for the very end. But it is going to be hard, even with a rookie quarterback, even with a really good offense and a really good defense. It's just there's going to be some learning curves in this first year.
Absolutely. I also have them finishing third in the division, but I do have them finishing at 10-7 and definitely sneaking into the playoffs as, one of those last wild card spots. That was my take on the day of the draft. I do think that Caleb leads this team to the playoffs in year one. They were awesome last year. This defense was just so incredible. And I think adding all these fun pieces to the offense, it'll definitely really help them be elevated. And they're going to be one of the more exciting teams in the whole NFL to watch. So just super, super exciting discussion there with the Bears. And let's move on to the Vikings. A little bit of a different discussion for me. Interested to see how high Stores is on the Vikings. They also finished 7-10 last year. But I mean, I'll just say it. I don't think that they got better this offseason. I think they got pretty substantially worse, if not like maybe more than any team in the NFL. That you do lose. We'll just go to their offseason right now and we'll start off with the losses. Because I mean, you lose Kirk Cousins. Obviously, that's rough. He was playing MVP football before he goes down. He's 36, so obviously, like, I understand you going the younger route. I love JJ McCarthy. We'll talk about their draft because I love their draft. But not only do you lose him, you lose Daniil Hunter, a superstar edge rusher who had a great season last year, and you lose him to the Texans. It's hard to replace that, and you don't really replace it. So I don't know. I just think, between those two really big losses, they've been two pivotal pieces of this Vikings team for a long time. I think it's going to be hard to be better, really. We'll go to their additions. They add Sam Darnold to replace Kirk Cousins, which is fine. I think that's like a good placeholder to start the season until you feel comfortable with JJ McCarthy. Maybe he starts the whole season. It'll be interesting. There's a fun receiving core around him, so Darnold could reach his upside that he's never reached. Maybe there is a situation. KOC is an awesome offensive mind. There is a potential, but you do also bring in Aaron Jones, which is awesome. From your division rival, I think that's the biggest upgrade they made on this roster all offseason is, Aaron Jones going in there. And I don't really love the running back depth on this team. Don't think Ty Chandler is that guy. So love bringing in Aaron Jones. That's absolutely awesome. Jonathan Grenard for Daniil Hunter. It's interesting. You do go younger, but you give Jonathan Grenard like a $70 million deal, and that was a lot more steep than I thought. I don't really think he's got edge one, and he's got to be their edge one day one. So he's really got to produce. I think Van Ginkel might have been the better value. He's been awesome for the Dolphins, really productive, great run defender. And then they bring in Blake Cashman from the Texans, and he had a fantastic season. I have no doubt that Flores will absolutely tap into his potential, and he's going to have another great season.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird, rough offseason, honestly, for the Vikings. Obviously, it feels like we're kind of in a competitive rebuild. It doesn't feel like they fully went all in for the rebuild. Obviously, signing Jonathan Grenard to a huge extension. You do draft Dallas Turner with your second pick in the first round, which I do like that 1-2 at edge. Um, Sam Darnold, he is just a placeholder. He's not going to elevate your team much. Your limit is only so capped with him, and so it's confusing. But I mean, rest in peace, Kyrie Jackson. That was kind of a brutal loss. A guy that I was very very excited for. Had a lot of potential, and then they lose Mekhi Blackman today to a torn ACL. So I mean, it's just they're taking brutal blows here. The Vikings are. So it's an awkward spot. I don't feel like we brought in enough talent. You lose Kirk Cousins, you lose kind of that face of your franchise. I wish they kind of would have kept him for one more year and maybe done that, that final push. But I feel like we're just kind of in this awkward spot where we're trying to be competitive, but we're still trying to rebuild. So it's just that awkward competitive rebuild for me is like kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, and with you bringing up the corners, definitely look for this team to bring in a maybe Stephon Gilmore. That'd be an awesome signing because corner was already kind of a weakness of this team in the first place, and maybe a Xavier Howard who's familiar with Brian Flores. There definitely will or should be an addition in that secondary. So with that, let's go on to the roster. And like you said, that first round was so electric. You bring in JJ McCarthy, you don't have to trade up for him, which was honestly the most important part in that. You get him for appropriate value. So I absolutely love him. I thought JJ McCarthy was an awesome prospect. He was my number 3 quarterback in the class. I was pretty adamant since like December that he would be around a top 10 pick. And I just knew the NFL teams would absolutely fall in love with him. He's the perfect molding ball of clay for Kevin O'Connell. So I really am excited for JJ McCarthy. I don't want him to be rushed though, because there is, he's got some things to work on in his game. He needs to sit behind Darnold and take some time in the NFL. So I do like bringing in Darnold to be that stopgap. I really love bringing in Aaron Jones. It's going to boost this whole offense. Definitely going to be an electric part of this offense. This team's seen it closely with the Packers. He's been an awesome receiver. Running back, he's just been awesome in general over the last few years. You've got a really fun receiving duo in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison's an idiot. I think that's the biggest thing with him is he's got to get out of his own head. He's got to just to be smarter. He in general is off the field, on the field. He's got to, he's got to be smarter, man. He's a little bit of an idiot. I'll just get that out of the way. But you've got the best receiver in the NFL, the best receiver we've ever seen. He averages 100 yards per game. He's just absolutely awesome. This guy is the sky's the limit with Jefferson already, and he is the number 1 receiver in the NFL. So Darnold has a pretty fun situation. Not to mention he's got 2 bookend tackles in Darisaw and O'Neal, who he does not have to worry about, edge rush off the edge. He really doesn't, because those tackles are just going to be rocks. The interior is a little bit more suspect, but they do have a trio that's, serviceable, I guess. But wide receiver 3 is a little bit suspect to me. TJ Hawkinson, I'm not too worried about because Josh Oliver is an awesome backup. So I do think between the two, you'll be fine at tight end. And when Hawkinson comes back, he's, going to be a star for this team. He was the 3rd graded tight end last year, 2nd in fantasy. He's just an awesome, awesome tight end. So I do like this offense, but I do think the ceiling is kind of capped for now until McCarthy reaches that upside.
100%. And, I'm just going to throw this out there because I have major concerns with it. The depth on this team is not very good. It is not a deep team. One of your star players goes down. It's going to be hard to recover from that because the depth is not built out very well in this team. It reminds me a lot of the Chargers. The Vikings have always reminded me of, like, they're the Chargers of the NFC. And when one person goes down, and it seems to happen a lot with the Vikings, you don't have that depth where, your second player can really come up and play to that level or even remotely close to that level. And so it kind of like, it's like you're trying to patch holes, in a ship, and it's just slowly sinking. And that's just kind of how they built their team lately. And whether that, starts to change over the coming seasons, I don't know. But the depth on this team is very concerning to me. And one more thing I got to throw out there. Justin Jefferson right now is a value in fantasy football. I will say that right now. He's going in some as the wide receiver 4. And Justin Jefferson, I don't care who his quarterback is. Kirk Cousins was not healthy all last year. When he came back, it didn't matter whether it was Jaron Hall or Nick Mullins or Josh Dobbs. He will put up numbers. He is an incredible fantasy value right now. And if you're able to get him as the wide receiver, 3, 4, 5 in fantasy, he's going to outpay that value.
I definitely do agree with that. He's going as the wide receiver 4 right now, and I think he's averaged the most yards per game in NFL history at the receiver position, despite, pretty mediocre quarterback play. He's had Kirk Cousins, who's really boosted him, but Cousins hasn't always been healthy. So I do agree with that. He's a good value, especially at 4. If you can get him there, you're getting the best receiver in the NFL there. So yeah, I think this offense is serviceable. I think you've got the 2 high-end stars in Jefferson and Darisaw. By the way, Darisaw just got that big contract, fully deserved. Absolutely love that. The 8th graded tackle last year. Just, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Great draft picks on that offensive line there. Ed Ingram started to play better. So those draft picks are starting to pay off. With that, let's go on to the defense, Brian Flores' defense. And we'll start it off with the edge here as well. I do think, Jonathan Grenard as your number 1 edge answer to replace Hunter is suspect. He's going to have to play a lot better. He was good last year, but not as the edge 1. So I do think, I don't expect Dallas Turner to play too good as a rookie. He was really awesome. He was, a top 3 defensive player in this draft. I really do believe that. It was a great pick. I love trading up for him. But I don't know, with that interior defensive line being as rough as it is. I mean, that interior defensive line is kind of just a joke. It might be the worst in the NFL. I don't know if it'll really help the edge rushers here, where you don't have like a fully locked and loaded number 1 edge rusher. I do really think that's going to hold this team back, because I really value edge rushers more than corners, and so does the NFL with, the amount of money these edge rushers are making. I think your defense really starts with the pass rush. So I am really nervous about that. I'll just be honest. I'll get that out of the way. I'm very nervous about the front 7, nervous about the depth on the front 7, honestly. Like, really, really nervous. I just don't like it. You got Jerry Tillery starting, by the way, Stores, for some PTSD for you. He's going to be starting at nose.
I was just gonna say, I was like, you got all pro, all American, all defensive tackle / defensive end Jerry Tillery on your team. So I mean, I can't believe that guy's on an NFL roster. He's so terrible.
Going to be getting significant snaps. So that defensive line is kind of my qualm with this team, why I'm going to be lower on this team. We'll talk about the linebackers. Absolutely love the linebackers. 2 sleepers, complete sleepers. You bring Blake Cashman over from the Texans. He's from Minnesota, went to Minnesota for school, so I absolutely love him coming back home. He's the 8th graded linebacker in the NFL last year. Just a great season with Amico Ryans coaching him up. Now he has Flores coaching him up. I think he's going to be, a borderline top 10 linebacker in the NFL again. Evon Pace, undrafted last year, had no business being undrafted. We told you guys here on this, deep dive last year that Evon Pace was a complete steal. He started day 1 and he looked awesome. One of the best blitzing linebackers in the NFL. We'd be kind of remiss not to talk about Josh Metellus as well, because he does play linebacker for this team. He just moves around and he's an awesome kind of joker piece for this team. He's a linebacker, safety, slot. He kind of just does it all. So I really love Metellus as well. Combining with the 2 safeties and Cam Bynum and Smith. I think that's a really fun safety trio. So that will help as well. Those linebackers and safeties are really fun. But with the edge, like, look at those corners, man. Those corners are really scary. You bring in Shaq Griffin, who has struggled mightily, honestly, in his career from Houston as well. You got a Caleb Evans starting on the outside, who has upside for sure. Hopefully he can hit it, because he's going to need to, starting on the outside. And then you got Byron Murphy, might be forced to start on the outside, but he's really a good slot corner. He excels in the slot, one of the better slot corners in the NFL. As an outside corner, he's just good, But I do think that this defense, it'll be coached up by Brian Flores. I don't want to be too low on it. Brian Flores will help each of these guys reach their potential. Turner has insane potential. So I mean, it's going to be decent. I just think year 1, it's going to have some learning curves.
Yeah, and the biggest X factor really is Brian Flores. What he's able to do with that defense. I mean, he's a defensive mastermind. He is brilliant, and he deployed this defense, in incredible looks last year. And again, he's another guy that just elevates the roster. They're gonna play better than what they are because of Brian Flores and the position he puts them in to succeed. Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace Jr. They're going to play way above how, the player talent that they are. But man, Ivan Pace Jr. last year, man, what an absolute stud. We called that on the Seekers. We were very high on this man. And that's one of the better takes that we had. And, Brian Flores proved us right on that one. Yeah, and then you're just kind of relying on Jonathan Grenard and Dallas Turner to be great. And, after that, you just got nothing behind it. So again, with this team, and that's what is going to hold me back from giving them a very good record, is the depth. And honestly, there's not crazy, crazy star talent on this team. And then there's no depth to back it up to make me feel safe about it. So, should we just get right into the records?
Yeah, you put that perfectly. Roster wise, it's scary, but Flores and Kevin O'Connell will elevate them. How much will they elevate them? We'll see, but let's get your prediction.
Yeah, so this is going to be pretty easy for me. They're going to finish fourth in their division. I'm sorry, Vikings fans. I think your future is brighter down the road, especially with JJ McCarthy. When eventually he can, develop and become hopefully the great quarterback we all think he can be. But for right now, this is a 6 or below win team to me. I'm gonna be a little generous. I could see it being worse, but I'm gonna put it at 6-11, finishing fourth. Just it's gonna be a harder schedule. It's gonna be difficult for this team. There's gonna be learning curves, and giving hopefully they have no injuries, but injuries happen. It's football, and the depth is just not good. So for that reason, 6-11 for me.
Yeah, don't love the roster, don't love the quarterback situation. It's definitely bottom three in the NFL with the Broncos and Patriots. So that is not going to help you by any means. And I also go with a 6-11 record, finishing fourth in this division. I totally agree with you. The future is very bright. We were both high in McCarthy. I'm very high in McCarthy. I think he's going to be an awesome quarterback in the NFL one day. But let's just go over their first 8 games because they're going to be favored to win maybe one of their first 8 games. And this does go into why we're predicting them to finish with 6 wins. Maybe their first 8 games are the Giants. That's winnable. That's your one winnable game out of the next 7. You got the Niners, Texans, Packers, Jets, Lions, Rams, and Colts.
Yeah, that's that. That is brutal. That is, yeah, okay. That's I
With Sam Darnold,
hopefully
you're lucky to start the season 3-5, maybe 2-6. Like that's a crazy gauntlet.
that's being generous. I mean, honestly, I don't see them winning the game other than, yeah, the Giants, which is going to be a tough game, and the Colts, which is going to be a very tough game. That's like the two winnable games there. Everything in the middle is just brutal, and you're going to be beat up week after week. So, oof.
You're going to be favored to win one game out of your first 8, and that's week 1. So it's a gauntlet. This division's a gauntlet. So that's why we're a little bit lower, but we're really excited about the upside, about the future for the Vikings. Let's go on to the Packers real quick. Love the Packers, super high on this team. I've got my Jordan Love shirt right here, my favorite quarterback in the NFL. Him and Caleb Williams, both just a fun quarterback division here. But they finished 9-8 last year after a pretty rough start, and they ended the season beautifully. They caught fire and really didn't look back at all. They were beating some really good teams down the stretch. They went into Dallas in the playoffs and completely beat the doors off that team. Jordan Love was just playing with Dan Quinn. He was just dicing up that defense, and they couldn't have any answers for him. Jordan Love and LaFleur kind of really clicked, and they were on the same page. And once that happened, the second half of the season, they really just, the sky was the limit. I think they're going to pick up on that upside, and the sky will be the limit again this year. And we'll go into the offseason because that team had like 2-3 weak spots on the entire squad. They're the youngest squad in the NFL. And with those weak spots, buddy, what do? You bring in Josh Jacobs. Who, I mean, Aaron Jones wasn't really a weak spot. He actually had a pretty good season last year, but why not upgrade for, 2 years ago, rushing champ, the most rushing yards in the entire NFL 2 years ago. Josh Jacobs, only 26, just a great, great running back. He's going to really help boost this team, score those touchdowns, those hard touchdowns in the red zone. You did have a weakness in Darnell Savage last year. You replace him with Xavier McKinney, who's one of the best safeties in the NFL last year, only 24.9 years old. I absolutely love him. I thought he was the best safety free agent in the NFL. So I absolutely love that addition. I think he's going to be really awesome. A star on the back end of that defense. Really exciting. And then you do bring back Keyshawn Nixon, who's a solid slot. And, slot was kind of a need. So, I mean, hopefully he can take a little bit of a step up. But I do really, really, really love you bringing in those pieces too. Replace your losses. You also lose, like Devontae Campbell, but you draft Edgar and Cooper, who I actually really liked. I think he'll be an upgrade eventually. He's got a lot of upside. He's really athletic. So I think they really did a good job in the draft of replacing their losses as well.
Yeah, this is just, in our notes, you just worded it perfectly. The young team just gets even younger and even better. I mean, maybe they don't have the most sexy drafts every year, but they just get these players, man, that just perform. I mean, their wide receiver core is just filled with, maybe not even one household name. I mean, you could say Christian Watson's kind of a household name, but not really. I mean, but you got I mean, Devontae Wicks, who I think is going to have an incredible season this year. I mean, you've got, Bo Melton. There's just all these guys who you just would not expect to be good players, and they just turn out to be good on the Packers. But yeah, Romeo Dubes. I mean, it's just Jaden Reed who's going to be just awesome this year. I'm super high on Jaden Reed, so it's kind of an absolutely electric wide receiver core with no household names though. But yeah, I mean, in the draft, Jordan Morgan, Edrin Cooper, Javon Bullard to pair with Xavier McKinney, Marshawn Lloyd to be that eventual successor to Josh Jacobs. It's just, it's just a really well constructed, very well young built team, and it just has all the upside in the world. How much money, Dan, do you think Jordan Love is going to get, and when do you think he's going to return to practice?
I think he's going to get a bag here very soon. He'll get, a $50 million bag right around that Jared Goff contract already, which is crazy. Hasn't even played that full season, but you just saw it at the end of the year. You have to secure that guy. You have to give him that extension because he deserves it, and he will price himself up. I think it's easy to say the trajectory is really, really pointing up, and he's going to, keep going, build off that confidence that he really exuded onto the whole team. So I'm really, really excited. Let's just go on to the offense because you've got Jordan Love, who he had a great grade last year. He was awesome, started the season rough, and then really just something clicked, and he was intellectually just dicing up defenses, just in defenses' heads. And like you said, this receiving core is kind of just like a motley crew, but they all work. They work really well. Jordan Love trusts them all. You got Dobbs, who he trusts more than anyone to throw that 50-50 ball to. Jaden Reed, one of the best slot receivers in the NFL, honestly. He was a great rookie last year. I wasn't even that high on him coming out, but he really surprised me, maybe more than anyone in the NFL out of all the rookies last year. He was awesome. Christian Watson definitely needs to stay healthy. If he doesn't, Wicks will take his spot because Wicks ended the season tremendously last year. He ended the season as like the wide receiver one. He had like shades of Devontae Adams in the way that he won his route. So I do love the smorgasbord, motley crew of receivers that you have. Drafted two really fun tight ends last year as well in Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, who I absolutely love. Tucker Kraft, one of my favorite players in the NFL too. Just love this Packers team, and I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'll be honest. I'm just going to be so high on this Packers team. I really am. I have so many hot takes for this team, but I love it. I love the roster, love the youth. I love the quarterback, the coach. I just love it all.
I mean, you said it all there, man. But I mean, Jordan Love, one of our favorite stories, one of our favorite guys coming out of Utah State. Obviously, we're both Utah boys. Happy Utah Day, Dan. It's the 24th. I didn't even know it was a holiday until I got to work and people were calling asking if we were open. But
My whole
Jordan,
street was shut down. It was madness down here.
yeah. What nonetheless, Jordan Love, man, just one of the up and coming rising stars in the NFL, a guy who can, has the potential to be a top 10 player in all the NFL every single year. And that's a good face of your franchise. This Packers team has been very good with drafting their quarterbacks. I mean, the last three quarterbacks is Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love. It's just, it's a quarterback town there and at Lambeau Field. This is going to be a fun team, man. This is going to be a fun offense. And yeah, again, young, electric, exciting, polarizing. Jordan Love's awesome.
Yep. And I absolutely love the offensive line as well. They just hit on every single late round offensive line pick that they have. Jordan Morgan will be starting at right guard. Don't know why PFF is starting Sean Ryan there, but that will be Jordan Morgan starting at right guard. And that's a pretty exciting offensive line. The weak spot would be Josh Myers, who was the one bad draft pick who they drafted him over Creed Humphrey. If they had him, this would be like a top offensive line. He drafted Zach Tom to be a superstar right tackle late in the draft. They really just hit on those draft picks, those offensive line draft picks. Let's go on to the defense. It's another, kind of the theme with this team, just a really fun young unit, and they kind of keep that going and bringing in a young star safety in Xavier McKinney, the fourth graded safety in the NFL last year. You've got a rookie safety starting opposite of him in Javon Bullard, and I think that's a great fit. I really liked him coming out of USC. I think he's a fun, rangy safety, will be a fun complement to McKinney. So I trust him starting day one. Honestly, I trust Cooper starting day one in place of Campbell. I really do. I think he was the best linebacker in the class. I think a few guys were kind of tied up in that tier, but I really do think he was the best linebacker in the class, just really athletic and kind of do it all. Quay Walker has yet to really shine as that first round pick. Hopefully he can kind of break out with the rest of the defense being kind of studs around him. You've got Jair Alexander on the outside. Speaking of studs. He's awesome. Eric Stokes didn't have the best season last year, but I do think he's going to have a pretty good bounce back year and be a pretty awesome corner. You got Nixon in the slot, and then Rashawn Gary, just a star. He kind of came back to form last year. Definitely looked like his pre-injury self, and he has the upside to be a top 10 edge rusher. He really does. He's got all the physical tools in the world. Coming out of Michigan, he's just a freak. He's awesome. You got Preston Smith, just super solid opposite of him. Then you got a really fun interior with Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt, who's also out of Georgia, just another high upside guy. But Kenny Clark's kind of underratedly one of the top defensive linemen in this NFL. So I really just love this team. There's a lot of stars on this defense that no one really talks about. I think it's just going to be awesome.
100%, yeah. And kind of opposite of the Vikings. This team is built, their depth is built. They're built to last, they're built to withstand injury. They're a wall that will not fall. And it's it's brilliant stuff. It's just when you see a well-constructed roster, you have to shout it out. I mean, you got guys, Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine, or gosh, can't even say his name, Kalen King, who is just a dart throw. It's just good depth. It's a well-built team. Carl Brooks, the draft pick, was that 2 years ago or was that this year?
I think it was
I can't
last
remember.
year.
Oh yeah, yeah. He should be interesting. Lucas Van Ness, a
Yep.
high upside guy who just hasn't really broken out onto the scene yet, but just a very well young, good constructed roster. And I'm excited to hear your prediction for him.
Let's hear yours first. I want to hear your prediction first.
All right, yes, we'll save mine, or we'll save yours for last. But I'm high on this team, man. Surprisingly, there's one other team that we're gonna get to that I'm a little higher on. But yeah, I have or sorry, not this Vikings, this Packers team going 11-6 and finishing 17 in the division with a playoff berth and possibly a playoff run, depending on how that goes. But 11-6 for the Jordan Love or gosh, my brain is foggy apparently today. But for the Jordan Love led Packers.
Jordan Love led Vikings would be crazy. That would actually really help that team. But I have them, just one win more than you. I have them finishing at 12-5, but I do have them finishing first in this division. I have them finishing with the high seed in the NFC. And like I said, I really do see them making it far. I really think they're going to be my pick to make the Super Bowl in the NFC. So I do love this team, have them finishing first in the division at 12-5. Vegas has them finishing at 9.5 wins right now. So I'm definitely going to slap some money on that over. I think that's a great value. But yeah, love this fun young team. They're going to be awesome. I've got all the hopes in the world for this team more than really anyone. Just love it.
Yes, yeah, it's gonna be fun. And from a fantasy perspective, man, there's a lot of value on to be found on the Packers. And Josh Jacobs, I think, is gonna be pretty polarizing. I know there's been a lot of Devontae Wicks hype. Jaden Reed's gonna be an absolute steal. The two tight ends. One of my sleepers was Luke Musgrave in our fantasy episode. But a lot of fun pieces on this team and a lot of sleepers and a lot of value for fantasy.
Yeah, check out our fantasy football rankings in our tight end episode. Musgrave was one of Stores' big sleepers. And yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Josh Jacobs is just going to be awesome. He's kind of being slept on. I would take him in that third round, maybe late second round. I really do like him. I think Jaden Reed and Jordan Love are the two of the biggest steals in all of fantasy. I really do. I've taken them in every single draft. I really am. So love this Packers team, man. We could talk about them all day. Just so fun, polarizing discussion. Speaking of polarizing, let's go on to the last team we'll talk about today. The Detroit Lions finished first in the division last year at 12-5. We're just a few plays away from the Super Bowl, honestly. Maybe just a few Dan gambles away from the Super Bowl. That's kind of his thing, is he loves the gamble. This team's good enough where I don't really think he needs to gamble. So I guess we'll just talk about, we'll move on to 2024. I don't think he's got to gamble as much because this team is locked and loaded, one of the most solid rosters in the NFL. They had one weakness, and that was the secondary, and they completely attacked it this offseason by trading for Carlton Davis. A really, really fun move. I think that was one of the more slept on moves of the offseason. I don't know why the Bucks traded him because they really needed secondary help in the first place, but the Lions took advantage of that after beating the Bucks in the playoffs. They trade for him. He's going to be their CB1 and a really awesome one at that. I love that. Speaking of great additions, you bring in DJ Reader, awesome interior defensive lineman, a legit star on that interior with Ali McNeil, with Aiden Hutchinson, I think it's just awesome. I absolutely love that. I think they had a great offseason. And then the draft, you get Terrion Arnold, one of the steals of the first round, in my opinion, maybe the steal of the draft, just relative to where I thought he would go and where I valued him. I thought he was the best corner in the draft. I think he's going to be awesome opposite of Carlton Davis. So I really love them having the self-awareness to really attack their weaknesses. They bring in Marcus Davenport, another loss for the Vikings. I really, really love what this team's doing.
100%. And like you said, attack the secondary. Terrion Arnold had no business being at pick 24. Me and you thought he could go as high as number 5 to the Los Angeles Chargers. He falls to 24. The Lions take advantage of that. Round 2, they go get Enos Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri. And then in the 4th round, they had safety slash running back hybrid and Sione Vaki, who was probably our favorite prospect in the entire NFL draft. But yeah, you find out what's weak on your team and you overload it, you attack it, and they did a damn near perfect job of that in this draft. And free agency, I thought they did an incredible job. DJ Reader, you had a hole in the middle of your line. You attack that. That's going to be huge to pair with Aiden Hutchinson on the outside, Marcus Davenport. You add to the interior of your offensive line. You get meaner. It's a constructed team. And the biggest free agent they were able to retain of all is Mr. Ben Johnson, somehow getting him back 2 years in a row when he should have been a head coach 2 years ago. They retained Ben Johnson, and that might just be the most brilliant thing they did all offseason.
It's kind of just overpowered and stupid how they still have Ben Johnson coming back. He would have been the best head coaching hire of the cycle easily. He's just an awesome head coach. He's going to be very sought after next year. I do think this is kind of the last dance for this team. We'll talk about the losses real quick because there are some pretty solid players. CJ Gardner Johnson, who was kind of terrible last year. I'll be honest, that wasn't a loss at all compared to what they added to that secondary. But Jonah Jackson was a really big loss, goes over to the Rams with a lot of money. He's going to be awesome for LA, but you do bring in some veterans, Kevin Zeitler, and you bring back Glasgow, who was good last year. So I'm not too worried about it. You lose Josh Reynolds to the Broncos, but I mean, maybe that is, let's just go on to the offense because you do have Jameson Williams as wide receiver too. You're really relying on Jameson Williams to really finally break out, finally hit that stride. And I want to hear your opinion on that.
Let's call Sam Laporta what he is. Let's call
Yeah,
he that's
true.
that's wide receiver 1 or 2, however you value
Fair,
him. That's
fair.
that's probably what it is. But yeah, like I'll sorry to interrupt you real quick, but yeah, after that it's pretty terrible. That's another weak spot that I'm very disappointed. Hopefully, training camp, mini camp here, we can add some talent, but outside of your top 2, it's awful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then losing Reynolds, you bring in, or I guess not bring in, but Cleve Raymond will be that wide receiver 3 in that kind of slot outside role, depending on wherever Amon-Ra lines up. But let's talk about Amon-Ra and Laporta. Like you said, they are 2 absolute studs, both insanely young as well. So the sky really is a limit with the 2. Like we might not have seen their best football yet, which is pretty scary to say. Laporta has an easy shout to be the best tight end in the NFL very soon. He is on that Travis Kelce type of trajectory for his career. So you love that. You also kind of helps. You have the best offensive line in the NFL. I don't think it's really controversial unless you're a big Browns guy. I think it's down to those 2 teams for sure. But this is my best offensive line in the NFL. You've got the best right tackle in the NFL in Penei Sewell already with a 93 PFF grade, the highest graded tackle in the NFL, not even just right tackle, just tackle in general. Already, he's so young, he can easily get way better. You had the highest graded center in the NFL with Frank Ragnow. You got, Taylor Decker on the left side. You got 2 really solid veteran guards. So I just love that offensive line. You got some depth as well. So it's just awesome, awesome, awesome. We can talk about the running backs because Jahmyr Gibbs is Alvin Kamara regen. He's just so fun. He's going to be a big boom this year. Talking about fantasy, you are really high on Gibbs. You think he's going to be the number 2 fantasy running back, and I definitely think that's a fair shout. He's got the upside for that. He's just awesome. I think the kind of phase Montgomery out towards the end of the year, and slowly started just implementing Gibbs more. He started taking over that goal line role, and I think Gibbs is like an overpowered goal line back because he just hits the hole so hard. He shoots out of a cannon right as he gets the ball. I think he's better than Dave Montgomery in the goal line because he's just so quick. I feel like he scores every single time he touches the ball down there. So I really love this offense. It will come down to, Goff staying as the top 10 quarterback like he played last year, keeping up that form. And Jameson Williams is going to have to step up. He caught a touchdown today in practice and he apparently threw up. And People were looking at his Instagram story and he posted McDonald's right before practice. So that kind of makes sense, which is kind of hilarious.
Dude, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. But when I'm just kind of laughing too, because I'm looking at this offensive line. There's not one guy graded outside of the top 15, which is crazy. You have Frank Ragnow 1, Penei Sewell 1, Graham Glasgow 8, Taylor Decker 9, Kevin Zeitler 15. I mean, dude, this is just it's sickening. This is a mean team. It's built like Dan Campbell wants them to. They're gonna punch you right in the mouth. They're gonna bite your kneecaps. It's that hard knock team, man. And this team doesn't need, it doesn't need a Jordan Love, because Jared Goff in this offense can be a Jordan Love or a Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter. He can elevate that team just because it's so well constructed, it's so well coached. Um, Kind of like you, or you're a little bullish and a little, you smirk, you grin at the Packers. This is my team this year, man. I think this team, it's Super Bowl aspirations or bust for me.
It really does feel like they're all in. This is kind of like a last dance with Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson with all these weapons. It really is scary. It's truly scary. We did a sleeper, a steal of the draft episode, and Christian Mahogany was our steal of the draft in the 6th round. You get a guy chiseled by the gods to play offensive line. He looks like a Greek god. He's awesome depth for the 2 veteran guards that you have. So I absolutely love just the structure of this team, the offense. I wish they would have brought in, a higher caliber receiver, but other than that, it's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Target all these Lions in fantasy. Stores was saying in our last mock draft he would take Amon Ra and Laporta both in the first 2 rounds, and I mean that offense puts up
And
enough
Gibbs, and
numbers.
Gibbs, and Gibbs,
Oh,
and
that's yeah, Gibbs too. All in the first 3 rounds. It's just
Gibbs.
stupid stuff.
And you know what? I'm going to throw this out here too. If you do not want to play the, draft a quarterback high, Jared Goff can be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. And in some cases, you might even be able to get him undrafted. So, I mean, look for him in the back ends of your draft. I remember I always have a funny story that I think I've said on the pod a couple times of me and you, for whatever reason. I think it was the year, maybe I don't know, I can't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago. Me and you were switching off, yeah, 2 years ago, picking up Jared Goff. And every single week, one of us would pick him up and then just drop him. And he was winning us games, man. He's putting up 30, 40 points, throwing 3, 4 touchdowns. It was awesome.
Yeah, he's like a 20-point game guy a week, and that just is kind of to be expected at this point. You've got that last dance with Ben Johnson. You can expect him to be great. Again, like a fantasy cheat code, just wait to take quarterback, because you can get a guy like Jared Goff late and he's gonna be awesome. He's gonna be startable every single week. So just love this Lions team. They're just really, really awesome. With that, let's go on to the defense. Really excited to talk about the defense. Like I said, they had the self-awareness to know this Lions secondary was kind of their downfall last year. It was the reason, maybe the reason they didn't make the Super Bowl, because this secondary was something that kind of got tore apart. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was terrible. Cam Sutton, terrible. Couldn't tackle, couldn't cover. It was just bad. So I really do like you bringing in Carlton Davis as that CB1. He had a decent season last year, but I think he has a really good season in this Aaron Glenn defense, opposite of rookie Terrion Arnold. I think that's a really fun corner duo. I think they're going to be great next to each other and really just complement each other, bounce off each other's strengths, and just be an awesome, awesome corner duo for a while. Not to mention, you get Brian Branch for year 2. He was awesome last year. Looked like a top 10 borderline safety in the NFL. You got Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph on the back end, 2 awesome steals of draft picks. So I absolutely love what they're doing in the secondary. Go on to the defensive line. You bring in DJ Reader, the 11th rated interior defensive lineman last year, behind Ali McNeil, who was the 7th rated, and he was a revelation last year, complete breakout player. Between the two, you've definitely got the best interior defensive line duo in the NFL. They had the number 2 run defense last year. I think that definitely, keeps up. I don't know why it wouldn't bring in DJ Reader. I think they might have the number 1 run defense. And I mean, going off that, the secondary was ranked 31st, by the way, last year. So I just love really attacking that weakness. And then you got Aiden Hutchinson, who was absolutely a star, a stud last year, comes up with big plays. I think he's going to continue that. You bring in Davenport opposite of him. I think it's awesome. The linebacking core will be interesting. I think Jack Campbell definitely has something to prove. He's got to play better than he did in his rookie season. But when linebackers really your only question mark, I think you're cooking with fire. I think Aaron Glenn is going to have fun.
It's I mean, I'm really not seeing a weakness, man, on this team. I don't see a weakness at one position. I'm pretty bullish. I think this is if not, the best constructed roster outside of wide receiver in the NFL. It's damn near perfect. I mean, obviously outside of wide receiver 2, 3, that's a problem. But this team is well constructed. I have such high hopes. Aiden Hutchinson is a rising star. Brian Branch is incredible. Can't believe they got him in the second round. And yeah, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Enos Rakestraw Jr., Sione Vaki. It just has so much talent on this team and so well built, so deep on this roster. I'm not concerned about this team. It is at this point it is Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, and I guess I don't even know where to talk about Sione Vaki, but you just mentioned him. I'll go back to the offense real quick because he was a top five running back in this class for me. I think I was kind of feeling crazy with my evaluation of the Vaki compared to the rest of the NFL. I was kind of shook because no one was talking about this guy as a running back prospect. He was my number five running back in this class. And then when he was announced as a running back by a Ben Johnson led team, it kind of made me feel really happy. It felt nice having that validation in my draft kind of analysis on Sione Vaki. I think he could be a great running back, but you do have Montgomery and Gibbs, so I think he will kind of play some defense here as well. And he could be a really solid safety. He could move around, play some linebacker, play some slot for you. He's got just crazy foot movement. He's just so athletic and quick. I think he's going to be awesome. I don't love Amik Robertson. I think he's kind of a CB4, CB5, but like you said, I think Ennis Rakestraw will be starting here very soon. I think between him, Arnold, and Davis, you've got a really solid corner trio with Branch who can play in the slot. You can move them all around. I think it's just an awesome, awesome defense, awesome team. Anything else you want to say, or do you want to give your record prediction? Or I could give mine first.
You better give yours first because mine is a little bit more high. So go ahead.
Yeah, the Lions are your Packers for me, but I do have them finishing 11-6, just one game behind the Packers, second in the division, which is, it is bold saying this team won't finish first in the division with how good they were last year, how good this roster is. But I kind of just am very high in the Packers. I think they have a revelation season like the Lions had last year, but I think that it's going to be very close. It will come down to the last week of the season. I fully believe that. So I have them finishing 11-6, definitely like a third seed though. Or I guess they would have to be fifth seed, but yeah.
I'm higher. This is my team. They were my team last year, kind of like the Texans. The Texans Lions were my team last year. Lions are going to be my team again this year, and I'm going 14-3 and finishing first in the division. Like I said, it's Super Bowl aspirations. If I mean it's not playoff, it's not NFC Championship. It's Super Bowl or bust for me this year. It's one final ride with Ben Johnson, and I mean, dude, this team is electric. There's no reason they can't be a Super Bowl team.
Absolutely. I love it. I love you being high on this Lions team, calling your shot on this absolutely stacked team, kind of the last dance type of run for this team. But with that, the moment you guys have all been waiting for, let's get on to our division award ceremony for the NFC North real quick. Who do you think will be the offensive MVP for the NFC North?
I got my boy right there in the Lions jersey. It's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have this guy, potentially finishing as a wide receiver one in all the NFL. I mean, what he was able to do, it was incredible last year, and I don't really see his production dropping off. I only see it getting higher. Obviously, they did not bring in any competition for Amon-Ra St. Brown, so Jared Goff's going to be looking his way. This is a 10 plus, target guy a game. And coming off of a season where he had 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns, I think he can match that or do even better this next year.
I just want to ask you one thing to kind of piggyback off of this. So I am assuming this is about like you think he's going to be by far the most productive player in this division stats wise. You think he'll be more productive than
Correct.
Justin Jefferson? You're not saying he's going to be better as a receiver than Justin?
I'm not saying he's a better receiver. I think given the circumstances, the situation, the offensive play caller, and the quarterback, I think he will be, possibly the most productive player in all this division. I think he's a better wide receiver than Justin Jefferson? No, I think Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know if Justin Jefferson can put up 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. I think he can. I don't see a reason he can't. But Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy are the reason I am a little bit more timid than picking a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, where it's Jared Goff, the connection's there. There's no question mark, and there's no wide receiver two to even blink at.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I completely agree with all of that. I do think he's going to be insanely productive. I think he'll be a top two fantasy receiver. I really do. I think he's just going to be great value in the first round of fantasy drafts. He's just awesome. A PPR merchant, finishes the fourth highest graded receiver in PFF last year as well. So love the pick. My pick will be Jordan Love. I think he could get MVP of the NFL. I'm just calling my shot on my guy, Jordan Love. I thought what he did at the end of the season after something clicked in his mind where he was just on the same exact page as the floor. He was that extension of the floor onto the field, and he was just dicing defenses up. He was a step ahead of every single defensive coordinator. He's just awesome. He's incredibly accurate, incredibly relentless. When they have the lead, he just keeps going. He just keeps looking downfield and making plays, moving around. He can extend plays and just have fun. He makes those back, shoulder throws. Those one leg side throws. He's just awesome. Can do the sidearm throws. He's like an Aaron Rodgers regen to me. So I think Jordan Love has a revelation season. Might put some money on him to win the MVP of the NFL.
It's a good bet. I put some money on him being the Madden cover because I mean this guy, he's going to be electric. What he did halfway through last season, I feel like he's going to do a full season of that and even improve his game going into this season. This is Jordan Love's breakout year, and that's a good pick. That's probably the safer bet pick. But he's just he is such a fun quarterback, man. I can't wait for this year. Get his fantasy value, get him and get both of these boys in fantasy. You will not regret it. If you have a Jordan Love, a Mon-Ra St. Brown combo there, wide receiver one, quarterback one, you're looking good.
Yeah, super, super fun player. I think it's a very easy projection to see him, picking up where he left off. He just has so much confidence in himself. It exudes onto his players, and he's just a great, great player. He makes the Packers so great. Who is your defensive MVP prediction?
I'm gonna go with the corner one, man. I'm going with Jalen Johnson from the Bears. A guy that me and you were very familiar with since college. One of the more slept on defensive players in the NFL. I mean, probably had the most quiet corner, overall finish corner one in PFF's grade in history. You just don't hear enough about this guy, and he can be a guy that's that 6'7" interception guy who's just a game changer on defense. And he's playing one of the harder, more valuable positions in football. And I expect him to have a really good year under Matt Eberflus and a really good defense.
I absolutely love that. Loved Jalen coming out of Utah. I was adamant that he should be a top 20 pick in the draft. I was really high on him, had him as a top corner in that class. He fell to the second round, and it was always just a stupid steal for the Bears. He was awesome last year. He'll continue being a leader of that defense. I absolutely love it. I went a different direction. Like I said earlier, I really just value edge rushers. I think there's a few edge rushers in this division that have the potential to be like a defensive player of the year type of edge rusher. I want to shout out real quick Montez Sweat and Rashawn Gary, who I think are going to have revelation seasons, get a lot of production, really stack up those sack numbers. So I'm really excited for them. But ultimately, I did choose Aiden Hutchinson. I think Aiden is going to have a great just breakout season, bringing in DJ Reader with Ali McNeil on the interior. You can't double team this guy at all. So he's just going to eat. He was the 8th graded PFF edge rusher last year with a 91 grade. I think he totally just piggybacks off of that. He had a 91.4 pass rush grade, an 85.2 coverage grade. He had a pick. He's just so good. He's a smart, great football player. I think he could really take that step up and be a top 3 edge rusher and, have a shout for defensive player of the year with that Max Crosby type of arc.
Yeah, I mean, he is bendy, he is flexible, he is fast, and he gets after the quarterback at an extremely high rate. So it's a good pick too. These guys are two, cornerstone pieces of this defense, and it's going to be fun to watch them play.
All right, let's hear your rookie of the year for this division. It should be a very hard and controversial one.
This might be the hardest. This might be the hardest pick in this entire series that we've ever done. But I'm just gonna go a bold prediction here and just throw it out there of Caleb Williams winning Rookie of the Year for all the NFL. I think it might be the most chalked pick in NFL history. He comes into the best situation as a rookie quarterback ever. Everyone loves to vote for that rookie quarterback. And Caleb Williams is going to be electric. He's going to make some ridiculous throws off platform, scrambling around. He's just going to be an ultimate highlight reel, and it's going to be an insane fun rookie season from this guy.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to be defending this guy all offseason, like we really have been. I mean, we've talked about him in every draft episode, every mock draft. We've had him as the first overall pick since last year, and he's just such a great quarterback. I truly think he's generational. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever evaluated. Got a crazy arm. He just moves around and makes plays. I think if he wanted to, he could be one of the better running quarterbacks in the NFL, like a Josh Allen type, but he just really doesn't do it because he doesn't really need to. He loves to just run around in the pocket and make that throw. But if if you wanted to lean into that more, you're funny. That's the thing. Like everyone always will be talking down on Caleb Williams because they call him whatever. They call him all the names, and I don't even want to say it on the podcast, but he gets so much crap from everyone for being zesty or whatever you want to call it. But I just think he's gonna just be awesome this year, just be so good. He's gonna win and just shut everyone up, and everyone will respect him as a top 10 quarterback very soon. He's one of the few rookie quarterbacks I've ever seen that has that true top two Patrick Mahomes upside, and that's crazy to say.
I 100% agree with you.
Asshole.
That
That's
was-
literally all you see in any comment of, or any like video that's posted on social media of Caleb Williams. It's just comments like
He
that. And
reminds me of he kind of actually he's just kind of like Patrick Mahomes, man. He's a little bit, he's a little bit, more out there in the spotlight. But yeah, there's no reason he should be getting any hate, dude. He's a passionate football player. He loves the game. And he's gonna dice people up on Sundays, man. He's gonna embarrass some people because he's one of those guys that's quicker than fast. But I'm super excited. Yeah, this is one of the better quarterback prospects we've ever seen coming out of college. I mean, just a pure passer, elite vision. I mean, can make every single throw at an incredible level, can scramble better than almost anyone I've ever seen. He's just an electric football player, man, and he's been a football player since day one. I mean, when he first came onto the scene at OU, I mean, what he was able to do was like anything we've ever seen in a college football uniform. And I'll never forget where he stripped the running back of the football and got a first down on fourth down. It was one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen, one of the most heads up plays I've ever seen from a guy. So I mean, through and through, this guy is a football player, and whatever people call him, it doesn't matter. He's a different kind of guy. He's just different. He's different in the game. He's different outside of the game, and that's what makes him special.
Yep, and he's got that IQ. He's got that football IQ. Like he said, he's got the love for the game. He's just passionate for the game. So love the player. Real quick, just wanted to throw out two other rookie names because this division is just so stacked with rookies, and Caleb's kind of just a layup, too easy to kind of put out there. So we'll put two players who I think were like the steals of the draft, and they were both first round picks, so you can't really say that. But getting on Arnold in the 20s, that was just stupid for the Lions. Just great. He's going to be so awesome, a cornerstone piece for that defense day one. You bring in Romo Dunze to complement that guy we just talked about, Caleb Williams. Romo Dunze was my number two receiver in the class. I thought he was pretty easily the number two receiver in the class. You see him in interviews. He's just got such a great head on his shoulders. He had a 70 to 30 catch to, drop rate when he threw it up to him. He was catching that thing 70% of the time. Like he is just crazy. He comes down with contested catches like nobody else literally ever has. So I think Caleb Williams and him are going to develop a scary connection. Anything you want to say on these two?
Good football players, man. Back the Bears were able to to combine Caleb and Rome with two top 10 picks is just brilliant stuff. And yeah, I mean, if you saw the interview with Keenan Allen, I mean, he's like this guy. They're like, how do you compare Rome Odunze to you coming out of college? He goes, dude, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he's more polished, he's a better route runner, he's smarter than I ever was. He goes, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, this guy he's a bigger, better, faster version of me. And that's, Keenan Allen's top, he's been, arguably a top 10 receiver every year in the NFL. So, I mean, high praise. Rome Odunze's got an incredible future ahead of him. It's just going to be hard for him, obviously, to beat the quarterback out of the MVP race.
Exactly. We both compared him to like Larry Fitzgerald, suit up. Larry Fitzgerald
Yeah.
coming out too. So he's just awesome. Real quick, if in case anyone's skipping around and they want to see our division winners real quick, let's hear who you think will win this division.
It is the Lions, and I have them going 14-2. And like I said, this is Super Bowl aspiration team. This is a team that does, if they don't make the Super Bowl, it is a complete bust for me. It's kind of the final ride with Ben Johnson. I mean, your team is stacked. Jared Goff is playing at an elite level. So I mean, I have full faith in this team, but no slouch to the team that you got over there on the right.
Yeah, it'll be a very insanely competitive, close division. I have it coming down to the very last week of the season, but I have the Packers finishing first, just edging out the Lions by one game as a 12-5 record. think they'll be one of the top seeds in the NFC. And my take is that they make the Super Bowl in the NFC. Honestly, I think it'll be one of these two teams, maybe the Rams. I think it'll be down to the three. But this division is just so fun. Juggernauts. I think the Packers, just with the youth, with Jordan Love really exuding that confidence, and kind of it just exudes onto the rest of the team. He's just awesome. I think he's going to be a great leader for this team, and I think that him and LaFleur can take this team to great heights. They got like 4 superstars on the defense that aren't really even talked about. Love this team, love the roster. Same can be said about the Lions. They got so many stars, just such a complete and well-built roster. Just a big shout out to both the Lions and Packers, GMs, really. I think the Bears are going to be awesome as well. No slouch. I mean, don't really need to talk about the Vikings, but with that, just a super fun episode. Love the NFC North. Really fun discussions. Hopefully, Vikings fans don't hate us too much. Any exit hot takes you want to say before we get out of here on the NFC North?
Caleb's that dude, baby. That's there's no even hot take. He's that guy. Vote on him for rookie of the year. It's chalked and it's a lock.
No, I do need a Caleb hot take. What color will his nails be painted week 1 against the Titans?
It's gonna be orange for the Bears, baby.
The
It's
Bears.
gotta be. It's
The
gotta be.
Bears. Yeah, he'll have it orange, and then he'll paint the Bears on his fingernails. We're predicting this now. I guarantee you that's actually probably going to happen, and he's going to go in and just completely wreck the Titans in his first game in the NFL. So that is our exit hot take for this one. Super fun talking about the NFC North, an insanely fun division. Stay tuned to the NFL Secrets podcast for the rest of the divisions. We've only done the Norths so far, and you know what? Just first comment is the division we'll do next. So comment what division you want us to do next, and then we'll start out with that division next. So definitely first comment is the next division we will do a deep dive on. So definitely comment, like, subscribe for the algorithm, and peace out.
Peace. Show the Secrets some love, baby.